guys? It's Phil the MMA Dude back with the Split Decision Podcast, episode number 101, here with my always brilliant co-host, the Fight Geek. Fight Geek, how you doing today, man?
Doing excellent, Phil. Happy to be back talking fights with you. How are you?
Doing well, doing well. We've got a lot to discuss today, folks. Here's what's on tap today. First, I'm going to ask Fight Geek our opening question. After that, we're going to jump into our UFC Vegas 26 Rodriguez versus Watterson recap and review a quick recap of that card. After that, we're going to jump into the UFC 262 preview and picks. And then after that, my favorite section, listener questions and more. But Fight Geek, I'd like to start off the episode with this listener question. It was so good that I had to start off the episode with it. It's from our friend Zan Bando. That's at ZanBando99. He says, #AskSplitPod. Hey fellas, Dana White hinted in an interview yesterday that they're looking at Jon Jones versus Stipe Miocic for Jones' heavyweight debut. Is this the fight to make, and will the UFC come to a deal? I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Thanks. So, Fight Geek, what do you think of this?
You know, a lot to unpack there, but I don't hate it. I mean, it's not the worst idea in the world. You know, if John's going to debut anywhere other than versus Francis for the belt, which we know is a big financial gridlock, then Stipe might be a great consolation prize for, John to kind of dip into the heavyweight division and prove himself as a title contender. That allows
and Fight Geek, and just real quick, Dana said that Ngannou versus Lewis 2 is next, and it's going to come in late summer or early fall.
And the reason I'm somewhat okay with that is because the first fight was so inconclusive between those two. I think there's still a lot of intrigue for that matchup. So, I could see maybe John priced himself out of that matchup, but John versus Stipe is still a historic fight. Probably more historic, maybe not because the belt's not involved, but I mean, Stipe is, still the greatest heavyweight of all time today.
Sure. I mean, I guess my big question would be, just from even, I'm trying to, put myself in Jon Jones's shoes and be fair here. Obviously, I'm a DC fan. I don't always love Jon, right? But I'm just trying to think from Jones's perspective, Fight Geek. Maybe you can tell me, why the heck would he do that? What is in it for him? That seems like that's a lose-lose. You beat Stipe, you don't have the belt. It's like, I just don't get it.
I mean, maybe Dana has, closed the door on that negotiation, and then the Stipe fight came up, and Jon wants to compete. I think we were talking about this, if not last episode, 2 episodes ago, and I was saying I thought Jon was going to fight before the end of the year because he was hungry to fight. I think, the option A didn't work out, so he went to option B, and option B just happens to be a Hall of Fame heavyweight. So I think it's an easy fix for Jon mentally. You know what I mean? Jon goes in there and beats Stipe, and Francis beats Derek Lewis. Then you have even more build up to that super fight. You know what I mean?
Very true. Would you headline a paper? I'm trying to think of Jones versus Stipe. Would you headline a pay-per-view?
Jon Jones versus Stipe is a headlining fight for sure.
No, that makes sense.
And I definitely want to see it at 5 rounds because I think the tactics and the strategy of a 5-round fight between those two is way more interesting than 3 rounds.
Well, Fight Geek, remember, it's worth pointing out, the UFC has this very brand new rule where now, co-main events on pay-per-views that are not title fights are 5 rounds.
Jon versus Stipe must be 5 rounds, or it's
I agree with you 100%. I would be so shocked if Jon Jones had, dropped his light heavyweight belt, went to heavyweight, was kind of playing with, fighting Ngannou, dipping his toe in and out of the water, and then he takes a Stipe fight. That would just be so classic Jon Jones. Like, why would you do that? To me, it makes no sense.
Classic Jon Jones.
To me, it makes no sense, Fight Geek. It's a lose-lose.
It's not a lose-lose, because if he beats Stipe, he beats one of the top 10.
What if he loses? The title shot is gone.
Well, it is gone, and he knows better than to challenge Francis, better to find out, and I think physically Jon is clearly a lot more comfortable with Stipe, who's, more his size. Both of those guys are going to be smaller, more mobile heavyweights in there, so it's going to be really interesting. I don't know. It's completely came out of the blue, after all the Francis Jon talk, but I don't hate it.
It really did. It surprises me. My 2 cents quickly is I'll be very surprised if it happens. I'll believe it when I see it. But do I think it could be interesting? Absolutely. Would I buy that pay-per-view? Absolutely.
100%. And then, I mean, I could see John winning a decision.
Yeah, I mean, look, let me put it this way. I think Jones has a path to beating Stipe that is far, far more favorable to John than a fight up against Ngannou.
And
Matchup
I
against
think
Ngannou.
maybe, maybe,
Yeah,
like maybe the better option is each other, right now.
I'm sorry, you broke up for a second. Each other meaning John fighting Stipe?
Yeah, and Stipe fighting John. I think
see.
they both may be looking at Francis like this guy's hitting his prime.
Right.
He's knocking everyone out. Maybe we'll let Derek Lewis, go in there and see if maybe Derek Lewis can shock the world, and then one of them get a fight versus Derek Lewis for the heavyweight belt, or something along those lines. It's a wacky MMA landscape. Anything can happen. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so are we ready to move on to our quick recap of UFC Fight Night, Rodriguez versus Waterson?
Let's go.
All right, so we'll start with that main event. Marina Rodriguez defeated Michelle Waterson via unanimous decision. This was actually a pretty entertaining, underrated little firefight I thought they got into.
100% agree. I thought it was fun. Karate Hottie showed a ton of heart. She's really game. She kind of shored up those issues with her range from her last few performances. She was landing that side kick. When she gets you down on the ground, she's pretty good with the grappling game. So I thought they actually put on a pretty solid main event considering what we thought we were getting. And yeah, I think, Rodriguez is, clearly a title contender, and Waterson's clearly, an undersized gatekeeper for the division, even, if she's super popular and super game.
Yeah, and it was strange, right? Because the fight took place at flyweight, which obviously, made Michelle look even smaller, sort of. She's always been on the smaller side.
Performed really well, I thought. She was getting more competitive as the fight went on, and she's landed that low right, high left kick, and it looked like it might have even broke Marina's jaw or something was going on there in the last round or two. So yeah, I thought it was interesting. I thought she, made a great account of herself.
All right, so let me ask you real quick. We're going to get to Marina Rodriguez in 1 second. Michelle Waterson, she has been someone who has been sort of on the precipice of a title shot for a while now, and I feel like she's always come just a little short of her potential. Is this the best? Has she reached her peak already, or is the best still to come for Michelle?
If I had to guess, I would say she's reached her peak.
Yeah, I agree.
And that, and yeah, I think this is as good as she's going to get. And I think, in the division she's fighting in now, she's probably a fringe top 10 fighter. In her natural division, she's probably, more of a contender as a world champion. But, that division doesn't exist in the UFC. So.
Yep. Ranked as the number 9 contender right now. Marina Rodriguez, the number 6 contender. Wondering, what do you think is next for Marina Rodriguez? She has looked extremely impressive. I believe she, right before the Michelle Waterson victory, didn't she finish Amanda Ribas, right?
Yes, she did. I think this one's easy. I mean, Joanna makes a lot of sense for her as a number 1 contender fight, maybe. Something like that.
I was thinking maybe Mackenzie Dern.
Mackenzie Dern makes a ton of sense as well. I mean, I like both of those fights. I think I like the Joanna fight just because it's clearly going to be, a standing match back and forth. But Mackenzie Dern's interesting. I think Mackenzie Dern would have an opportunity to beat Marina and then maybe get a title shot off something like that. So that could be really interesting.
Yeah, I want to read off really quick the strawweight top 6 because, man, strawweight is just stacked. It's number 6, Marina Rodriguez. 5, Mackenzie Dern. 4, Carla Esparza. 3, Yan Xiaonan. 2, Joanna Jędrzejczyk. 1, Zhang Weili. And, of course, the champion, Rose Namajunas. So, Fight Geek, really quick before we move on. I know we're taking a little bit of time here, but I want to talk about this division. Rose Namajunas is now the champion. Who do you think she should fight next?
That is interesting. Didn't we just answer this a couple weeks ago?
So there's a fight between Yan Xiaonan, the number 3 contender,
and
Carla
fight the winner
Esparza,
of that
the number
fight.
4.
Exactly.
Okay.
Because if Esparza finds a way to win, then Esparza and Rose already have a history, and then if is it Jan or Yan?
Yan Jiaonan, I believe.
Yeah. If she finds a way to win, then she is, the new blood. She's kind of, the rising star with a great record who's getting their first chance. And Rose has an opportunity to, get a title defense against, fresh blood that's not a rematch or a trilogy because, Rose has those coming as well.
All right. Okay, so I'd love to keep talking about strawweight, but we got to move on really quickly. Alex Moronio defeats Donald Cowboy Cerrone via TKO via punches at 4 minutes and 40 seconds of round number 1 in the co-main event. Dana White said that Donald Cerrone will get one final chance back at lightweight despite being 0-6 in his last 6 attempts. Thoughts on that? I wrote on Twitter earlier today that I had a problem with it because Tyron Woodley was a 4-time defending champ and was cut after 4 fights. So I don't like how Cowboy, who was never a champ, gets 0-6 in another chance.
Tyron Woodley
well, we
lost.
know that Dana didn't like Tyron, but is there,
Yeah, but it's not just not liking him. I mean, Cowboy is in the good graces of the UFC for a lot of reasons. I mean, he stepped up on short notice for years, year after year after year. He's fought
Tyron Woodley defended his belt 3 times and won it within 12 months. I'm just saying.
And publicly criticized the UFC many times and had a public issues with the UFC. So when it was time for him to move on, there was no...
So did George St. Pierre. So did Anderson Silva.
George St. Pierre was, elite until he left, and Anderson Silva, didn't get any special treatment down the end of his career. The guy was on a 1-8 streak to end his career.
I'm referring to when Anderson, for example, was champ and Dana threatened to member strip his belt because of some of his title defenses lacking.
Because of some of his antics in the cage and stuff.
Yeah, that's what
I don't remember him ever threatening to strip
I believe
the belt,
it was after...
He wasn't happy with it. But.
Yeah. Okay, so, I hear what you're saying. I just so do you think in short, do you think it's deserved that Cowboy gets one final shot? Keeping in mind he's 0-6 in his last 6.
Yeah, I mean, is it deserved?
I kind of have a problem with it. I kind of have a problem with it, to be honest.
At this point, but when you run the company and one guy pulls the trigger, then it doesn't matter what's deserved. It's what the company wants to do, and if they're going to give him another one, hopefully they don't give him a top 8 or 10 guy who's just going to wash him in 4 or 5 minutes again or less.
Oh, no, are you kidding me? I feel like they're going to feed him like the easiest fight that they possibly can.
Well, I mean, at this point, no disrespect to a legend, but who can he beat in the top 20 of lightweight? That division is killers all the way. Is he going to beat a Drew Dober?
I'm looking right now, number 15, Drew Dober. No way does he beat Drew Dober. No way.
Yeah, I mean, who does he beat? Do you have the rankings up?
Yeah, I do.
I mean,
14, Diego Ferreira.
Let's not talk about it because there's a listener question later. So we'll pick an opponent for him later on. But yes, he didn't look good. I don't think he deserves another chance, but, stranger things have happened, I guess.
I think that's fair. Okay, so... moving on, and again, we got to move through this card. Not too much else to talk about. I want to just really quickly touch on Neil Magny defeating Jeff Neal via unanimous decision. Hamzat Chimaev called out Neal after the fight. They went back and forth. Sounds like Neil Magny's down for a summer showdown with Hamzat Chimaev.
Wasn't Neil Magny always down?
He absolutely was always down.
He's down. He's been down.
I'm giving him all the credit. I'm just saying.
I mean, you didn't give him no credit.
What are you talking about? Weekend. Of course I did. I'm giving him extra credit because he just won. It's one thing to do it before, but now he's coming off a win and he's still saying yes to Hamzat. I think that's even more impressive.
And I mean, to be perfectly honest, Chimaev probably doesn't deserve that fight at this point. I mean, Neil Magny's a top 6 or 7 guy, and has Chimaev even beaten a ranked opponent yet in his career?
No, absolutely not.
So, again, we love to throw Chimaev's name up against every dude who's been putting in work for 7 years in the UFC, who has an unbelievable record, who's fought legends and Hall of Famers and is on a streak and is upward. But no, let's just hand Chimaev, Nick Diaz, and Neil Magny. It's like, this dude hasn't earned those fights yet, in my opinion. It's getting obnoxious.
I don't
Sorry,
disagree.
That's my little rant.
But it does sound like Chimaev versus Magny's happening this summer.
We'll be there watching, and it'll be a great matchup. All I'm saying is, people talk about Chimaev like he's the chosen one or something. The guy has not beaten anyone yet.
Okay. I like this fire from you, Fikey. So then, are you telling me Are you telling me right now you're picking an easy upset that Neil Magny's
Oh,
going to
no,
beat
no, I'm not
Hamzat?
picking that. I'm
Is
just saying
Chimaev
based
going to
on
beat
the
Magny?
resumes.
Come on. I'm trying to give you some credit here if you call it right.
If that fight comes to fruition, we'll make a pick at that time. Let's
Oh,
keep it
don't
moving.
be lame, Fight Geek. The listeners don't have time for your BS. Answer the question.
I mean, based on the unknowns about Chimaev's health and the way Neil Magny looked last weekend, I think there's a path to victory for Neil Magny, especially if he could elongate the fight.
I think Hamzat's too much for him, but not
But there's
not
too
necessarily
many
in
question
an
marks
easy manner.
about his health.
Yeah, no, there absolutely is. I'm excited. I like that fight a lot.
Of course, it'll be a real test for him, and then we'll get to see. But again, that guy is dealing with some serious health issues. Until I see him back, how do we know?
Yeah, absolutely agreed. Okay, so last fight that I needed to touch on at least is Gregor Gillespie defeating Diego Ferreira at 4 minutes and 51 seconds, round number 2 via TKO, via ground and pound. Gregor was extremely emotional after the win. He spoke about how he wasn't sure that he could continue, if he could do this after his devastating loss to Kevin Lee. He was crying in the cage. What did you think of his performance? I thought the fight was awesome. That first round was crazy.
I think that first round, arguably round of the year. I mean, the scrambling and the back and forth, and Ferreira not being held down and being so tricky and dangerous. I mean, that was awesome to watch. Loved every second of it. Gillespie being in trouble. I think he was rocked early in the first round and had to recover and kind of
and Ferreira had a few subs kind of, he was attacking with submissions.
Yeah, so I mean, Gregor Gillespie, who's battling confidence after being put on a highlight reel loss, getting rocked in the first round and putting it all together to come back and finish that fight, super impressive. I mean, that's who we always knew, Gregor was going to be. So it was nice to see him come back and do that. Huge momentum for him moving forward. I think he's a player again, at least for the moment. So awesome fight.
Yep, totally agree with you. Thought this really was a big statement win for Gregor, and boy, did he need it. He needed a big win.
And how wild is Ferreira on the ground? I mean, that guy's going for everything. That was awesome to watch.
Ferreira is he's that nightmare opponent because he's not that big of a name for a bunch of reasons, but he's not that big of a name, but he's
like
so
a pile
good.
of goo. You put an arm down, you put a leg down, you put your elbow down, the guy's just wrapping it and throwing a submission on it and trying to pull away. He's grabbing something else.
But think about it. If you're like a top, let's say 20 through 10 lightweight in the UFC, I feel like the last person I want to fight.
That's the hardest job on the roster.
The last person I want to fight is Ferreira because he's tricky, he's really good, and he doesn't have a big name. So it's kind of a thankless.
Game. He's super game.
I would not want that fight.
I think he probably would have won that fight had not he had whatever weight cutting issues and been so overweight and out of shape more or less.
Well,
I don't know.
I'm not sure about that entirely, Gregor.
Well, he's almost 6 pounds overweight, which means that something happened during his weight cut that was not a natural process.
But you think you think he would have won? That he's the better fighter than Gillespie in truth?
I think that he won the majority of the exchanges on the feet and the ground while he was fresh, for sure.
Well, okay, but, a fight is 15 minutes for a reason.
Well, of course, cardio is always, a part of the game. But, I mean, early on he had him in big trouble. And had he been able to keep his pace the way, he may normally when he gets all the way to 155, I don't know. You can make the argument each way. Some people would say, he had to cut all the way down so he'd be more dead. But I don't know. There's also a case to be made that if you don't go all the way down.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so are we able to move on from this event?
I just wanted to ask what you thought of the Klein fight. I thought he won, but he did not win. What do you think?
I thought Klein definitely won. I had a problem with the judges were a little bit all over the place on that night, and I thought that Klein won that without question. I think I actually wrote I wrote at the time on Twitter that the fight needs to be investigated. I thought it was that bad.
Investigated.
I mean, I think it's one of the worst. I think it's definitely no. I think it's one of the.
It was a back and forth fight.
You really think so, huh?
It was a back and forth fight.
I thought Klein clearly won it.
Say again?
I thought Klein clearly won it, very clearly.
Yeah, for sure. I thought he wanted 2 rounds to 1. The other one I wanted to call out is I thought the Haas versus Dawkins fight was awesome. What'd you think?
It was. It was intense. Look,
I think
the Dawkins
kind
brothers
of,
are badasses. They are.
Yeah, they are. But, I think I sold Haas short based on his previous performance where he got gassed. He showed a lot. I was impressed.
Both showed a ton of heart. Phil Haas is serious. I mean, look, middleweight went through a little period several years ago where it was really, really kind of sparse, and it's completely, heated back up again.
I agree. I like some of the prospects there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Okay, are we ready to move on then?
Yes, sir.
So I wanted to really quickly touch on just one fight from PFL 3. Verdum versus Ferreira. That is not Diego Ferreira, of course, but Renan Ferreira. Something very controversial happened in that main event of PFL. So Fabricio Verdum was going for a submission, and Ferreira tapped twice. So he tapped, but the ref did not see it. Verdum let go of the submission, and then Ferreira brutally TKO'd him. Hammer fisted him, knocked him out. And then just today, the fight was formally overturned to a no contest. I want your thoughts on that because, first of all, I'll say I don't think it should be a no contest. It should be Verdum via submission and give him 6 points.
No, you can't say that because.
Wait, why not?
Because you can't award the victory to him because the action.
But he
continued.
got the tap.
The ref is in charge of the action in that situation, unfortunately, and the ref missed it. So, no, you can't do that. It has to be a no contest because, yeah, the person who, it wasn't technically a penalty, but, was penalized here was Verdum, who, you can make a case that he didn't really give up, that, he may have felt it, softened up, lost position, and then, got beat, there.
Yeah,
but,
I mean, I'm no big fan of the PFL. I hate that they don't allow elbows. I don't really like the format. I don't think it's the best fighters in general.
I think there's been all kinds of excitement in these fights in this season so far, though. So I think you're.
But really quickly before we move on, Kayla Harrison. I'm seeing some arguments, and I know we debated this a few weeks ago. You said that Kayla Harrison could beat Julia Budd, the former featherweight Bellator
100%.
You take that back. Come on, man.
I would not. What do you mean? Is there a reason to based on her last performance? She's hungry. She's driven. She's with the best team in the world.
What are you talking about, man?
She's physically gifted. She's
the fighting at 155 against nobody.
She's younger. I mean,
she's fighting at 155, man. That's not even a real. That's not even a real women's weight class.
Whenever she cuts down to 145, because eventually she will, she's going to be even more powerful for her division.
Is that controversial to say? Let me come out and say it. 155 is not a real women's weight class. And what I mean by that is
fine. I understand that.
There's no competition. There's a lack of challengers.
I understand that. That's not what I'm basing my what are you basing it on? Of Kayla, her pedigree, her team, her physical talent, her drive, and I mean, what more could you want in a prospect?
I just can't believe you think that she would beat a veteran like Julia Budd, who held her own.
Julia Budd is on the backside of her career. She's in her 30s. She's got a lot of wear on the tires. I think a young, strong, well-trained, hungry, driven prospect. I don't even know if you can call her a prospect. She's like 8-0 now. She's beaten the girl Pacheco, who was on that card, who brutally stopped the other girl. She's beat her twice already.
Okay. These are PFL.
Well, I'm just saying, for reference, you're saying she's not beating anybody, but the other girl.
She hasn't.
She's beaten that girl twice, and that girl made a splash last weekend.
Everyone, you hear that? Fight Geek's impressed because Kayla beat that girl. Oh, yeah, that girl.
That girl,
she's pretty good.
I'm impressed by the total package.
All right. So are we ready to move into the UFC 262?
You're just mad because she'd smash Aspen Ladd quick.
Wow, easy. Okay, are we moving into the 262 preview and picks?
Let's go.
All right, boom. So we're going to start off with the prediction for the final card of the prelims, and that is Jacare Souza versus Andre Muniz. Muniz? Or is it? Yeah, Muniz.
I think it's Muniz.
Muniz. Okay. Who you got?
I'm actually going to take Andre Muniz here. I think that, unfortunately, Jacare is just aged out of his prime, taking a lot of damage lately, and this is the type of fighter who has, the jiu-jitsu to nullify Jacare's strength there, and I think, he's going to keep him on the feet and bang him up. I'm taking Andre Muniz here.
I was so tempted to do that, but ready? Jacare by split decision. I think he's got one more. He's got one more.
Well, if he were to win this, that would set him up for one more actual big fight.
I think he's going to get set up for a big fight and then lose that one. But I think he's going to pull this one out. That's why I'm saying one more.
Interesting. That's an interesting fight. There's actually a lot of fights on this card that are very hard to call.
I just pulled up the odds on Muniz versus Jacare. Guess what it is right now? It's dead even, minus 115 each.
Yeah, leave that one alone.
Yep. Seriously.
All right. So, let's just call out a couple of them because I think Andrea Lee versus Antonina Shevchenko is
That's
awesome
an interesting
too.
fight. That's a very interesting fight.
Who do you got here?
Man, what a close fight, right?
I can make a case either way. Like I said, these fights are hard to call.
Yeah, definitely. I have got. I'm gonna go with Antonina Shevchenko by unanimous decision, 2-1.
Yeah, I'm actually gonna go the other way. I'm gonna take Andrea Lee, split decision. I think it's gonna be close back and forth, but I think Andrea Lee's actually gonna be the stronger fighter. And it's something that I found interesting here. Andrea Lee's 4 years younger than Antonina. Antonina's 36. She comes across a lot younger.
Wow. But she looks very good for 36. I didn't know that.
So,
okay. All right. Moving on. Okay, so the first fight of the main card is Matt Schnell versus Rogerio Bontoran. Who you got here?
Taking Matt Schnell. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, taking Matt Schnell. Been impressed by him. I think, is it Rodrigo Bontoran?
Bontoran, yeah, I believe so.
Just butchering the names.
We probably both are.
I just think Schnell just outclassed him a little bit. It'd be too much for him on the feet. Schnell's been really intelligent with the way he's fought in some of his last fights, too. So, I'm high on him. I'll take him via unanimous decision.
Annoyingly, I agree with you, and I've actually got it by third-round stoppage. Moving on, Shane Burgos versus Edson Barbosa. This is a fun little fight at 145.
This has fight of the night written all over it. Fight of the year, maybe.
I think it's going to be fight of the night almost for sure. And I am leaning Shane Burgos by, again, unanimous decision.
Yeah, I hate to kind of side with you, but I'm going Shane Burgos via split decision. I think it's going to be close. They're going to beat the hell out of each other for sure.
Yeah, everyone avoid this card in terms of betting. This card is nothing but trouble. The fights are so close.
Super close. All right, and then we have, what do we got next?
Then we got Katlyn Chookagian versus Vivian Araujo.
Another super hard fight to pick, and I actually am going to take Katlyn Chookagian via unanimous decision. I think this will be a point fight, and I think she'll be better at it. That's how I see it.
All right. This is such a fun little card with us here. I am going to take Vivian Araujo via unanimous decision. I think that she is actually going to be able to close the distance on Chookagian despite the height discrepancy, and I think she's going to be able to get the W.
Yeah, we're going head-to-head on a bunch of these.
We are.
The top two is all that really matters. So
the co-main event, Tony Ferguson versus Beneil Dariush. Should I go first? I'll go first here. Man, what a heartbreaker. I've got Beneil Dariush via third round TKO. I hope I'm wrong. I love Tony so much, guys. I'm sorry.
If Gaethje wasn't going to stop, he did stop him. But, yeah, it's hard to say that. Hard to see Tony really, winning right now this fight, especially with the way Dariush is kind of streaking. So I'm taking Dariush via unanimous decision.
Do you think we're being too harsh?
Well, we might be being too harsh, but that's what goes on in MMA. You're prisoner of the moment. Tony's 0-2. I think he's lost 9 straight rounds or something like that. So
he looked so bad against Charles.
So, he looked. Unfortunately, I love Tony Ferguson, one of my all-time favorite fighters, one of the all-time legends of the sport. But Father Time catches up to everybody. He's in his late 30s. He had a 7-year run in the UFC as an elite fighter. So it doesn't mean you don't like him if you think that potentially his prime is behind him. So
and it's just so crazy seeing that he's on a 2-fight losing streak, and his record is still 25-5.
yeah, he's an
tells
absolute
you a
Hall
lot
of Fame
about it.
legend, no doubt. And does he have a path to this fight if he's in
Oh, definitely.
normal Tony?
Definitely.
Yeah, for sure. But I think that Dariush is in the better spot right now, unfortunately. So I'm taking Dariush via decision.
Listen,
as much as I hate to say it.
If Pete Tony shows up, Dariush is absolutely screwed. I'm just
No, 100%.
Yeah.
If Pete Tony shows up, for sure. I think Tony has way more ways, but the last time we saw Tony in the cage, Gaethje
Exactly.
put like a life-altering beating on him, and then he was moving like he was in sand the next fight.
And then, Charlie Olives really messed him up. Exactly.
But
Okay,
that wasn't the same Tony. That Tony was very sluggish. I mean, the Tony who fought Justin Gaethje cut weight twice in 30 days, right? I mean, That's one of the most absurd, overlooked things that any fighter has ever done, probably.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, so moving on to the main event for the UFC Vacant Lightweight Championship. Iron Michael Chandler takes on Charles do Bronx Oliveira for the vacant lightweight belt. Really quickly, before you even give me a prediction, Fight Geek, I just wanted to quickly touch on this. I don't want to be a Debbie Downer. I haven't liked this fight for the vacant championship ever since it was made, and I've tried to chill and just kind of let it warm to me, grow on me or whatever, and it just hasn't. I hate the fight for the belt. I hate it. I think that.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can hate the fight for the belt, but that doesn't
crazy,
make the
man.
matchup
It's
any
crazy.
less amazing.
But don't you think that there's at the very least two fighters that we know of in lightweight that are better than these two, being Dustin Poirier and Justin Gaethje, and then there's a big argument 3 with Conor McGregor. Big argument. So does it hurt the belt's legitimacy?
I know, but still, there's other situations you could pick at like that. Aljamain Sterling is the champion, and I think there's 2 guys better than him in the world. He
was the rightful number 1 contender, and then a freak thing happened. So that's a little different.
Well, I'm just saying, crazy things happen for seasons in MMA. It wouldn't be the most wild thing ever. I mean, Miesha Tate had the belt for like 5 minutes. Things like that happen all the time.
Yep, absolutely. So do you want to go first with your prediction or me? What are we doing?
I think it's obviously both guys have passed to victory, but I really think that Chandler's punching power will be the difference here. I think he will stop Charles Oliveira via TKO in the second round.
Damn. Yo, wow. I really thought you were going to pick Charlie Olives here. I'm very annoyed.
Oliveira definitely has many ways.
I know, but I have to agree with you.
I have to formally agree
with you. I have to formally agree. I think that Michael Chandler's right is going to find Charlie Olive's chin, and I think it's going to happen. I actually think it's going to happen in the third round when he's going to get the finish via strikes.
You want to hear a bold prediction?
Yeah, sure.
I think it's going to be a body shot from Michael Chandler that really causes problems for Oliveira.
Okay. Ooh, that's interesting. I like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Charles Oliveira could also, jump to guard and do a flying triangle.
So really quick, absolutely, and really quick question, just while we're on it. So Patricio Pitbull has been really lapping up the fact that Chandler's
which he
fighting for the
should
title.
be. This is his moment.
He's saying, "Hello, my son. I'm proud of you." He keeps saying, "You're my son. I'm your daddy." So it's going to be fair that I think it's fair to assume that if Chandler wins that belt, both Scott Coker and Pitbull are going to be screaming from the mountaintops saying that the best lightweight in the world is in Bellator. Does that hurt the UFC, and if so, how much?
I don't think it hurts the UFC because the UFC at this point is like the NFL. It's a bulletproof brand. I think what it does is it helps MMA in general. So you don't necessarily grow UFC's market share, but you grow the MMA market share in general by having maybe the best fighter in the world in in a certain weight class, a premier weight class in another division. It just educates people that while the UFC is the number 1 league, not every elite fighter is there.
Yeah, and just really quickly, for anyone that doesn't know, if they're wondering, what does Michael Chandler have to do with this? I'm guessing most people know, but Michael Chandler was obviously the Bellator fighter for many years. He was the lightweight champion for many years.
He was the poster boy of the whole.
The poster boy. He got knocked out by Patricio Pitbull. Ironically, I was lucky enough to see that live in Rosemont, Illinois. in the first round of their title fight approximately 2.5 years ago. Chandler would then go on to win another fight, but he never reclaimed the belt, and then he separated from Bellator. So that's why Patricio Pitbull and Scott Coker are kind of claiming that, if Chandler wins the belt, we've got the best.
Patricio's going to claim that because he truly believes it, and Scott Coker's going to claim that because it's an unbelievable marketing tool that
exactly.
you gain. So
exactly. But you don't think it damages the legitimacy of the UFC lightweight belt if that happens?
Not at all. I think a lot of people will understand this, and then by the time 2022 kicks in, then Dustin Poirier or Conor McGregor may have the belt, and then that perception changes again. I mean, what if Michael Chandler gets the belt and then Poirier stops him, and then order is restored as far as like the casual UFC take.
Absolutely.
My opinion of it, I think it's good for the sport when elite fighters from other parts of the world rise up and gain attention. The UFC is bulletproof; it's not going anywhere.
Absolutely. Okay, so with that, we're going to take a really quick break, and then we'll be back with listener questions and more. Hey guys, it's Phil the MMA Dude letting you know that this episode of the Split Decision Podcast is brought to you by TotalAggressionClothing.com. Visit www.TotalAggressionClothing.com and use the promo code 46210 to receive a special Split Podcast discount on all Total Aggression hats, shirts, hoodies, and more. Again, that's www.TotalAggressionClothing.com with promo code 46210. Hey guys, it's Phil the MMA Dude back with the Split Decision Podcast, episode number 101, here with my always brilliant co-host, the Fight Geek, and it is now time for my favorite section of all, and that is Listener Question! Thank you.
All right, let's do it.
I put my heart into that one, so I'm glad I got the applause. Thank you. Okay. First question comes from our man, Split Podcast OG. That's Eduardo at Landa Crew. He says, name a highly anticipated fight you have no interest in seeing. Mine is Darren Till versus Stylebender. Hashtag AskSplitPod.
Love this question, and mine is Valentina Shevchenko versus Amanda Nunes 3.
Okay, expand on that. Why does that not interest you?
Because I love their individual dominance and their individual legacies, and I don't think that their legacies have to be intertwined.
Okay. Interesting answer. I agree they don't have to be intertwined. I just don't think there's any women out there that can challenge either woman besides
Then let them retire
two.
Dominant champions. And set the precedent in those divisions as to what a dominant champion looks like.
Very fair, very fair. Okay, very fair. In terms of my answer, Eduardo, I like your answer, to be honest. I like Darren Till versus Stylebender is a useless fight that some people are trying to push. I don't think Till has anything for Stylebender. I don't think that would be that competitive, but I'll go ahead, and this is going to be probably pretty controversial, but Kamaru Usman versus Colby Covington 2. Now, I'm not saying it shouldn't happen.
That was my number 2.
Oh, okay. Of course it should happen. Of course it needs to happen. Relax, Colby fans. Stop foaming at the mouth. But Colby did not improve in the last few years like Kamaru did. And that first fight was a masterpiece. It was so close. It was so competitive. But we're just not going to see that this time. I truly believe Kamaru is going to really hurt Colby and get him out of there inside 3 rounds fairly easily, and that would be my choice.
I like it. Great question.
Yeah, great question, as always, Eduardo. Okay, you got one or should I go?
Go ahead.
Okay, this is from Mace. Oh, Mace, like your name? I love that rapper.
I think he's a new question.
At Mason, JHNSN, he says, Jake Paul versus CM Punk in an MMA bout. How do y'all think it plays out? I think he asked me this question earlier in the week.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, but I think Jake Paul probably knocks CM Punk out pretty easily.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
CM Punk was absolutely atrocious at fighting. in every aspect. He didn't have anything to offer. At least Jake Paul.
He had heart. I will give him that.
He had heart. I'll give him that in two. But Jake Paul is actually, a pretty big, strong, athletic kid who at this point has been training his striking enough to where he can land a shot. And I don't even think, based on what we ever saw from CM Punk, that he was capable of landing a damaging shot.
Yeah. I think it's fair. I mean, I do think that's fair. I'm
not saying Jake Paul's is an
if
MMA
you put a gun to my head, I'm taking Jake Paul. I'm taking Jake Paul on that for sure.
Of course. I mean, athletically, physically, it's not even close. I mean,
no, I think it would be Jake Paul but I don't think it would be nearly as easy as you say. I think it would be Jake Paul by unanimous decision. I don't think he'd be able to get CM Punk out of there. Maybe I'm underestimating Paul.
At this point, the last time you saw CM Punk fight was like 6 years ago, and he was terrible then.
I know, man, but look, are we really gonna have the Jake Paul MMA talk? But look,
no, we're not. I gave my answer.
He boxed Ben Askren, and everyone's can't get over it. It's like, dude, give me 3 months, I'll box Ben Askren. I think I can do okay. Maybe not, but I don't know, man. It's Ben friggin' Askren.
Either way, it's irrelevant. You got our answer. Let's
Okay. So. This question comes from another Split Podcast OG, Pat Tobin. That's at Pat_Tobin. Will Diego Sanchez be remembered for the warrior he once was, or the sad situation he ended on with the Josh Fabia circus? Thoughts on the whole situation and latest bizarre video? Do they seriously think these videos they release make them look sane? #AskSplitPod. Oh boy. This is a good one, big one.
Lot to unpack here. First of all, I think Diego Sanchez will be remembered as a cautionary tale. People will remember, how fun he was when he was young, but I think the story will turn dark pretty quick. That's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, look at how BJ Penn's remembered. It's a very sad...
Right, and at least BJ was acting on his own accord and to some extent, so you can understand what's going on. There's a lot of layers to what's going on with Diego right now that, nobody can really explain at this point. So, yeah, it's bad. The videos that they're releasing just make them, nobody really understands what their beef is.
I'm guessing he's referring to the video where Diego appeared to be a literal human punching bag.
Yeah, I mean,
what did you make of that video? I am curious.
I mean, on air?
I thought it was pretty disturbing.
I thought it was 100% disturbing. I think, again, there's layers there. There's a lot going on in that video that I'm probably not qualified to break down. But, I don't think there's any practical application for a guy who borderline, if not, you can't confirm CTE in the living. But I would bet my paycheck on Diego having CTE at this point. Him hanging upside down with the blood rushing to his head, landing, 60 to 70% strength strikes. I mean, there literally is no practical application that I'm aware of. So,
in fairness, Diego's always been a little weird, right?
100%. I'm a Diego Sanchez fan. I was a fan of Diego
I am too.
When he used to train in the waves and he would go out to the ocean and pray.
Right. I think that's the one thing. That's the one thing. People aren't remembering that Diego's always been weird. He's always been a weird cat.
That's fine. But he's always been weird on his own accord, doing things on his own accord. Now, is he being extorted because he has CTE and that's in addition to his, precarious nature?
I think he's almost certainly being taken advantage of here.
Well, I think we all can see that,
Right.
I don't, the videos that I've seen, like I can't even tell if they're like satirical videos or not of the School of Self-Enlightenment or whatever.
The School of Self-Awareness, which is literally
Have you seen the videos?
It's the funniest name too because
it's like a bizarro world.
But how can you name it? How can you name it the School of Self-Awareness and be so stunningly unself-aware?
Well, how can that be something you're producing? It's like, it seems like a Saturday Night Live skit. There's nobody laughing at it. It's just bizarre.
Yeah. Now they got Stephan Bonnar under their little tent, so who knows how that cult's going to go.
Stephan Bonnar just had a recent mental breakdown in public as well. So, I mean, it's not exactly that's not helping their case.
No, I'm well aware. No, I know.
So, it's sad to see. I think, same thing with the NFL. It took the NFL, 50 years for them to get a major lawsuit over brain or traumatic brain injury. So I'm sure the UFC is probably 15 to 20 years, behind. But there will come a reckoning, because there's just too much being given by the fighters to, once their career's over, just kind of be floundering with brain damage and no real place to go in life. I think we're seeing it a lot more now as the sport turns 25, 26, 27 years old. As the sport gets 40, 50 years old, they will have to figure something out, because these cases will be all over the place all the time.
Yep, absolutely agree. Okay, next question comes from our man, Tabs. That's at Tabs1172. He says, my question is, where do you see Justin Gaethje in the lightweight picture? We've got the title fight, and the winner will most likely face the winner of Poirier-McGregor. Also, Pitbull is being a Karen on Twitter. How does he fare against the UFC top 5 lightweights, including Conor? Okay, so really 2 questions there. First, where do you see Justin Gaethje in the lightweight picture? 2, how does Pitbull do against the UFC top 5 lightweights, including Conor?
Well, I think Gaethje should be the number 2 ranked lightweight, personally.
I agree.
If it was just going off merit, he's clearly earned to be the number 2 guy. And who should he fight next? Was that the second part of the question?
It was where does Justin Gaethje fit in? Yeah, so where does he fit in? Who does he fight?
I mean, I think he was having a hard time getting a fight at the very top, so he's going to have to win a fight. Here's a fun name.
Yeah.
How about Justin Gaethje versus Gregor Gillespie?
Ooh. You think Gregor's ready for that?
Well, Justin needs a fight, and everybody else is pretty much locked up. I don't think him fighting a Paul Felder does much at this point.
Gaethje would mess Gregor up.
Well, Gregor just got that big win on a big card.
Yeah.
In front of a lot of eyes, so at least he's a name. I think Justin has been a little unhappy with the fact that he hasn't gotten any sort of fight yet. But when you look at the guys at the top...
Well, remember, Justin said publicly that he thought, the night before they announced Chandler versus Oliveira for the vacant title, he went to sleep thinking he was fighting Chandler for the lightweight title. He signed a contract, apparently. And then, as is well known, Dana does this often, where he sends out multiple contracts and then he makes the fight he wants. This is not a new thing, by the way. And then Justin was upset that next day, right? He woke up very surprised, seeing he was excluded.
But I mean, he's not. I don't think the winner of Dariush versus Tony he should fight, because he's past both of them at this point.
If Dariush wins the Tony fight, he's going to be coming in hot.
Yeah, I can maybe see Dariush versus Gaethje. But
especially
if Tony
he gets a finish.
If Tony wins, that's strictly squarely slides Tony behind Justin.
Hold up. If Tony wins in fantastic fashion, does he earn a Gaethje rematch?
I don't want to see a Gaethje rematch. Gaethje handled him too comfortably. Like when they say styles make fights, I don't want to see Tony in there with Justin Gaethje again, ever.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm a huge Tony fan, so I despise.
So am I. He had Justin hurt at the end of that round, but Justin was rearranging his face at the end.
He almost finished Justin at the end of the second round with that uppercut, but it came too little, too late in the round.
And then it turned into a landslide one way.
Correct. Exactly. Okay. So do you have a question, or should I go?
Go ahead.
Okay. So this is from Eric Buchert. That's at ATANAK74. He says, Dana says he's going to give Donald Cerrone one more fight at 155. Who do you think Cowboys' final opponent should be? #AskSplitPod. Love it.
Sorry. I wasn't listening. We missed a bunch of Tabs question. I felt bad. Can we go back real quick?
Oh, geez. Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, guys. Sorry.
We haven't asked about... Oh, okay. You're saying Pitbull is being a Karen on Twitter. How does he fare against the UFC top 5 lightweights, including Conor? You're right. We didn't talk about that.
All right. So Pitbull, let's just line them up. Who's number 5?
You're putting me on the spot here. I believe...
All right. Let's go from the top.
Oh, just chill out. Just chill out. Take a deep breath here. Okay. Number 5 is Tony Ferguson. And 6 is Conor. So start with Conor. Start with Conor.
Say again?
Start with Conor, because he's number 6.
Oof. Him and Conor is a great matchup. But at this point, Conor just got stopped. And I think Pitbull wins. So I think he beats Conor.
Yeah, Tony Ferguson. I think he beats Tony.
I think he beats Tony also.
Michael Chandler, number 4.
He beats Michael Chandler.
3, do Bronx Oliveira.
Definitely can beat the Bronx.
2, Justin Gaethje.
I mean, everybody's, low on Gaethje right now because he just got submitted fairly easily to Khabib because he was being so reckless. But, yes, I think Justin Gaethje can beat Pitbull.
And Dustin Poirier.
Yes, I think so. So I think Pitbull might be the third best lightweight in the world right now.
I agree with that. The only things I'll say is I will say this. I think
definitely could beat him on any given night.
I think you're selling Charlie Olives and even the Michael Chandler rematch a little too harshly. I think that you're telling me that Chandler would have no chance in a rematch. I can't.
I'm not saying no chance, but what I'm saying is he's already beat him, so you have to give him credit in real time for beating and stopping Michael Chandler.
Absolutely.
So he's above Michael Chandler right now and has. The proof is in the pudding that he can beat him. So
that's fair. I guess I think.
And the same reason I'm taking Michael Chandler this weekend is the same reason I would take Pitbull versus Oliveira. Is Oliveira does not respond to getting hit hard very well, and Pitbull hits really hard, even though he's a featherweight. So
it's annoying, but I agree with you. I agree. Yeah. Okay, so we agree that Dustin Poirier and Justin Gaethje would beat Pitbull, and Pitbull's the number 3.
But I think Gaethje versus Pitbull is live. I think Pitbull could win that fight. I think Dustin would be too big and too composed.
Absolutely. Okay, so we should really get back to Eric's question. Apologies.
All right, sorry to divert there, but I wanted to make sure we got Tabs' question.
Yeah. And it's Eric Buchert, right?
Yep. Two weeks in a row.
Thank you. Dana says he's going to give Donald Cerrone one more fight at 155. Who do you think Cowboy's final opponent should be? #AskSplitPod.
Yeah, I got 2 names in mind. I think both are perfect. First one is Clay Guida. Second one's Michael Johnson.
Ooh. I really like the Michael Johnson fight. I don't like Clay Guida. I think that...
Why? Clay Guida's in the Hall of Fame. It's perfect sense. They both...
Because you know that Donald will win that, and it's a little bit...
No, he won't. Clay Guida's on a winning streak and has not actually looked bad, I believe.
I mean, he beat Diego in like a competitive decision recently.
That's bad. I mean... What do you think would have happened between this version of Cowboy and this version of Diego last weekend? Do you think it would have been a unanimous decision Cowboy?
I think it would have been a unanimous decision Cowboy. Yes, sir. Unanimous decision Cowboy. What about you?
Yeah, I think it would have been hideous, but Clay Guida just beat Michael Johnson, so I guess for name value, I'd like to put Cerrone versus Guida. I think that they deserve each other based on the fact that they're both going to end up Hall of Famers. But Michael Johnson's definitely, the more interesting striking match, and Cerrone would have a chance there. But Cerrone just got stopped by Alex Morono. So Michael Johnson could stop him for sure at this point, as enigmatic as he is. So,
I will remind you one thing that's worth mentioning. I'm not saying you're wrong about the point that, Alex Morono is not a huge name, stopped him in the first round.
I like Alex Morono.
Remember, we thought that about Darren Till back in the day. We thought Darren Till was a nobody.
Nobody thought that. Everyone knew that Darren Till was a massive welterweight at the time.
He hadn't even he had barely been even featured on TV when he beat Cowboy.
That's fine, but he had a big reputation from his training, and he
had just won a split decision that was underwhelming.
He was like 14-1 when he stopped Cowboy, and everybody knew he threw straight shots and was powerful. The guy was the biggest welterweight on the roster. Everybody knew he hit hard.
I'm just saying, I remember for a fact that the performance before the Cowboy fight was underwhelming. Okay? For sure.
No,
I remember that.
You're wrong.
Okay. All right. He knows best. Guys, look it up. It was underwhelming. Anyways, okay, so I think the names should be, here's who Cowboy should fight. I've got 3 names for you. Kevin Lee, Diego Fajeda, or Drew Dober. I think you go 13, 14, or 15. I think
all of those guys murder Cowboy Cerrone.
Well, Cowboy Cerrone should be cut already if we're just being honest, but you've got to keep him going against top competition.
90 seconds. All of those guys beat this guy in 90 seconds.
I don't disagree with you. But I have no idea why he's still here.
Those 3 names you just gave are absurd. It's not even close to competitive.
Bro, I just named 13, 14, and 15. What do you want me to do? I'm naming
There's no way he should get a ranked opponent at all.
Then why is he here?
Because he's the all-time wins leader, and they're trying to pad some stats.
All right. Well, it's an honest answer. Okay, so...
no, that's what they're trying to do this past weekend with Diego. They're trying to pad Cowboy stats so he can, be... He's been the monster UFC guy for like a decade now. That's their dude.
All right, all right. Okay, I agree. By the way. Okay, next question. You ready?
Keep them coming.
All right, this is from @2comfy69. @2comfy. He says, which do you prefer more? High level grappling or high level striking? Hashtag #AskSplitPod.
I love this question.
Yeah, it's a good question. It's a tough one.
Well, it's really hard to say because I love both, but I will say this: we get high level striking so much more that it makes me appreciate when we get two super high level grapplers like Fajeda and Gillespie. I thought that first round and those scrambles were unbelievably exciting.
Yep.
So I'm going to say, just based on the fewer occasions, the elite grappling.
And I knew you'd say that because that's the cool hipster response, and that's the one that's
That's
tempting.
just the truth.
That's the tempting response. You know, I think of obviously I practice Muay Thai and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I personally have
practiced the Diego Sanchez hanging upside down bag striking school.
Is that where I go? The school of self-awareness. But I was going to say, I have many more years of Muay Thai experience, but over the last few years, I've really come to love Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu more. And that's sort of the martial art that I know I'll be practicing for the rest of my life no matter what. So I have to annoyingly agree with you and say that I do prefer high-level grappling. And again, it's a similar reason that you listed, because it's more rare, because it occurs less often.
And it's rare that you get two guys that are elite, like, Gregor as a wrestler and Diego as the grappler. Both of those guys are elite. So
yeah,
hard
absolutely,
to see that.
Absolutely.
You can get an elite kickboxer, an elite, and an elite Muay Thai striker. Not all the time, but we've seen them.
Yep. Okay. Next question comes from @JudahPeru1984. He says, "Here's my question. What do you think about the UFC bringing in a ton of new talent and cutting a majority of fighters within a short amount of time? I remember John Jones' first fight, he had no talent with striking, but years after he developed an overall MMA game. Do you think UFC cut them too early? If so, should they develop a new strategy to find talent?" A lot here. First of all, he was saying John Jones had no talent with striking when he started. I'm not sure, Judah, about that.
John Jones was a wrestling prospect.
Yeah, I know.
Transitioned into MMA.
But no striking talent? I don't know about that.
Yeah. Well, that's what he's saying. He's just saying, as a guy who came into MMA without striking, he was a little bit crude early and then turned into one of the greatest fighters of all time.
Yeah.
Is the UFC cutting?
Is he? Yeah, he's asking, right? Is the UFC cutting people too early? Do they need to develop a new strategy to find talent?
I actually think the UFC has a fairly long leash. I mean, you see guys like, they just cut Luke Sanders, who I think had, a big rep when he came in, but I'm not sure off the top of my head, but lost 3 in a row or something like that and had some underwhelming performances. So I think they generally have a fairly long leash unless you come in and get blown out 2 or 3 times in a row.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And the other thing, and just to add on to that really quick, and this isn't, I'm not trying to be like this, bootlicking UFC suck up here, but tell me if you think I'm wrong, Fight Geek. Is it fair to say that even though they can, at times they can cut in what seems like a slightly harsh manner, at the same time, they'll cut you. You go to you'll go to the regional circuit, get 2 or 3 wins, you're straight back. You're back. I see that all the time.
Julian Erosa is a great example.
Anthony Lionheart Smith. How about that?
Yeah, that's a
Robbie
good one.
Lawler. Robbie Lawler.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's many examples of that. So, yeah, I think that's a good point. And also, should they develop a new strategy for finding talent? I don't think the UFC needs to. I mean,
Tuesday Night Contenders sucks.
Yeah.
I despise.
No, it doesn't suck.
No, it does, dude. It's a farm league of bad people that aren't good enough.
What are you talking about? All the fighters that are coming through are interesting.
We've already argued about this before, but I've told you, I think Tuesday Night Contenders is basically an overall scam developed to have fighters get paid less.
Fighters start to develop.
Sorry?
I mean, how's it a scam if it's actually starting to develop good talent that's competitive?
What's wrong with doing tough tournaments?
Well, they're doing tough and they're doing Dana White Tuesday Night Contenders.
I used to love Tuesday Night Contenders the first 2 seasons. Don't get me wrong, I was its biggest fan.
Also, the UFC's at a point where they have a cap on the amount of fighters they're going to carry as an organization.
I used to love Tuesday Night Contenders, Fight Geek. I'm saying for the past 2 years, I've spotted their subtle little difference. They're trying to be cute. They're trying to see if no one notices, and they brought in a much lower level of fighters the last 2 seasons. That's a fact.
They have brought in, I wouldn't say lower level, but I would say fighters that are earlier in their development than before.
And it didn't used to be that way. It used to be
that's
like...
because there was a lot more regional MMA. Regional MMA is dead
Well,
since
that's
COVID.
a good point. That's a good point.
I mean, California back in, the late 90s and early 2000s had like 5 or 6 MMA leagues on the regional circuit. In Arizona, there's at least 2. So nowadays, these big leagues are having to farm internationally and build their own talent. It's not like the Wild West where it used to be, where there'd be guys all over the place,
Absolutely.
And nowadays,
I think that's a good point.
The guys who are good are training together, so you're not having to search for as many of them. You go to Team Alpha Male, they got 20 prospects who have been training there in Northern California, and you send 5 of them to the Dana White Tuesday, whatever. That's just how they're doing it, rather than Dana and his talent scouts going out to regional MMA events, finding guys. They're basically just going through all the big gyms who produce the talent now.
Yep. Okay, I think that's fair, honestly. I think you bring up a good point about how regional MMA has been really hit by COVID, so it's not what it used to be, and that's definitely affecting Tuesday Night Contenders. I think that's a very fair point, frankly. Okay, moving on to what I think might be one of our final questions. This is from the Tap or Snap MMA pod. So Tap or Snap MMA podcast. We'll have to check that out. #AskSplitPod. If you're Max Holloway, do you wait for the winner of Volk versus Ortega, or do you take a fight right now? If you do take a fight, how about a matchup with Yair? Would love Zabit, but he's flirting with retirement. #AskSplitPod.
Yeah, I like that, but I think Max wants to stay active. But
isn't Yair currently being punished for drug cheating?
Yair?
Yeah.
I don't think isn't Yair's last win Jeremy Stevens?
I believe Yair is not eligible to fight right now because
I don't
of
think
drug
Yair
cheating.
deserves a fight with Max Holloway right now. That list is very short.
And then
who were we talking about Max fighting last time?
Well, Zabit was this big name, but we've heard some very strange things about Zabit. There's a lot of rumors going around that he is about to retire, which makes no sense.
Yeah, a lot of...
There's obviously the easy jokes
could be a lot of
that
misinformation too.
They were told that he had to do 5-round fights, and he said he'd prefer to retire. But I don't know. I mean, and if it's something serious, then I don't want to be making a joke about it. I just don't know anything about it.
Yeah, neither do I. But no, I don't think Yair's the fight for Max. If that was his only option, really, at this point, I would say to wait out for the winner.
And I mean, obviously, Giga Chikadze's calling out Max, but
that's not.
I think that's ridiculous.
I think we covered that last week, that he doesn't deserve that fight yet.
In short, I think Max should absolutely wait. I feel for Max if he's at all frustrated. He probably wants to stay busier than this. I feel for him. I think it's BS that Ortega versus Volk didn't happen faster. I don't think it's cool to kind of make a fighter of Max Holloway's caliber wait around like this.
What if Barbosa knocks out Burgos this weekend? Do you make Max Holloway and Edson Barbosa?
Sure, if we want to get rid of Barbosa, sure.
Well, what is Barbosa working towards?
I have no idea what
Barbosa went down in hopes
I have
to
no
get a
idea
title.
what Barbosa's working towards.
I'm saying that Barbosa went down in hopes to get a title shot against someone who's not primarily a wrestler, and Max Holloway is exactly that if he were to get a big win this weekend.
I mean, to me, man, maybe I'm on my own here, but the way I honestly view it is I remember Holloway versus Calvin Kattar. The truth is there was a lot of heat coming into that fight. A lot of people were very excited, including me. There were a lot of people saying, don't be surprised when Kattar wins. He is known as this great striker, a great boxer in particular. And then I just saw Holloway. I mean, I don't even know if toy with him is strong enough, right? He 50-43'd the guy he stared at the commentators while dodging punches, saying, I'm the best boxer in the UFC. I don't need to see him fight anyone but the champ for a while.
Fair point. I can agree with that. That was pretty amazing.
Yeah. So I think that Max should wait for the Ortega-Volk winner. And really quick little spoiler, don't be surprised when it's Brian Ortega.
Yeah, and then that leads into an unbelievable storyline with Ortega holding the belt against the man who beat him.
Wouldn't that be epic? Ooh.
Well,
Volk fans are getting annoyed, and he has a real chance against Ortega as the defending champ, of course. He's tough as they come. And,
well, of course he does. He's the champ.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so do we have any other questions, or is that it?
I think that does it.
All right, so with that, right before I hand it off to Fight Geek, guys, if you enjoyed the episode, if you could hit subscribe, if you could hit a quick 5-star review, makes a huge difference for us. Hitting that subscribe makes a huge difference for us. And with that, Fight Geek, take us away.
All right, guys, as usual, you can find us on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, Google Play, Stitcher, and more. I'm at the Fight Geek MMA. He's at Phil the MMA Dude. We are at Split_podcast. It's 4 words, the Split Decision Podcast. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you next week. Peace.
Peace.